Morning.
Thank you.
You guys awake? All right. Morning, Matt.
Good morning. How are you?
Should we out ourselves?
Go ahead.
Our kids go to preschool together, too.
And they're good friends.
They are. They love each other.
And I am delighted to have the privilege of asking Elizabeth a couple of questions for the benefit of this crew. I was really happy to work with her on a feature for Entrepreneur titled Women to Watch, and she is undoubtedly a female entrepreneur and just a great gal to watch, not to mention that she's also a really great human. So Elizabeth, we've heard that you've worked for the UN Foundation. We've heard that currently you're the Entrepreneur-in-Residence at Dell. Tell everybody a little bit about what your role at Dell entails.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people thought it was a departure. I supported the UN for 10 years and to head over to Dell, but I got to know Michael Dell quite well because he was the first UN Foundation global advocate for entrepreneurship. And I learned quite quickly that both of us had a shared value that entrepreneurs were actually the ones creating sustainable solutions, particularly once the UN left an environment. So if you think about in developing countries, number one, who are creating most of the jobs, right? So entrepreneurs are creating 90% of jobs. In developing countries, 70% here. And very relevant for this conference, they're creating solutions that are generally sustainable. They're monetizing environmental solutions, which we love, and they're disrupting technologies that might save people's lives. So Michael asked me to come over to Dell to actually think about how could a behemoth like Dell with 100,000 employees in 160 countries actually help entrepreneurs scale these great solutions. So that's my job. I get to run around the world helping entrepreneurs really think about, and I should say purpose-driven entrepreneurs specifically, like all of you in the room. How do we help them scale their best ideas?
And I know that there was a vote, I believe it was late last year, that was pretty critical to some of the programs you guys have in place, some of the things you're hoping to accomplish. Give us a couple of examples of some of the specific entrepreneurial programs that not only you have at Dell, but you're advocating on behalf of Dell.
Sure. So last year, the UN created what I call the world's to-do list. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals were voted on, 17 of them, and they vary from educating the world's youth to ending climate change to alleviating poverty. But I was really proud that one of the goals, Goal 8, was job creation through entrepreneurship for all. And I think that's really important because, again, these solutions that will help solve all these goals, I think, are coming mostly from entrepreneurs, whether it be social entrepreneurs, for-profit entrepreneurs. And so not only is this a goal to actually help entrepreneurs scale, but I think those will help all the other 17 goals. So that was passed last May. We were really proud of that. About 1.5 billion people got behind that goal to get it voted on. And so it was a big sigh of relief when it actually happened.
And so in the context of Dell's commitment to CSR, corporate sustainability, where does this fit, and how does entrepreneurialism sort of dovetail with sustainability strategically for Dell?
Whether you're Dell and you're a corporation this large, or you are just getting started and you're a startup, I think every one of these organizations should look at the triple bottom line. So what's your profitability, how are you impacting people, and how are you impacting the planet? So thinking of that, Dell actually leads on e-waste recycling, which is becoming a huge problem around the world. If you think about there's more cell phones than people, and then how often does your cell phone get turned over and you buy a new one? And then multiply that by 1 billion in terms of electronics. So e-waste is becoming a major problem on the globe, and we have to all lead, particularly in this state where we are the producers of most electronics. The second is packaging. Consumer packaging is a major problem for the oceans, for the environment, and so on. And there is the ability to have 100% sustainable packaging. Whether you're a giant company and you're shipping millions of tons a week of products, or you're one of these great companies that are right next door, sustainable packaging is really important. In terms of CSR, we do a lot of philanthropy, and donating cash. But I think what's even more important is that all of your systems in your company are actually also sustainable. So you want to kind of walk the talk in a sense.
We talk about sustainability being something that obviously everyone needs to strive for, but it can get expensive. So when we talk about ROI, especially for the folks in this crowd, how do you measure the ROI on a sustainability effort, both from a monetary perspective, dollars and cents, and a non-monetary perspective, whether that means marketing or perhaps just increased awareness with your customer base?
So the reason I call it triple bottom line is because, I mean, the bottom line is about measurement, right? What's my revenue? How am I doing? But I think measuring people and planet is just important. Harder to measure, yes. But you can certainly measure when you're screwing up and when you're hurting the environment and when you're hurting people. So even though we need to make more advancements on how to measure how we're impacting people on the planet, we can look backwards and see what we've done wrong. On the flip side, 1% of nothing is nothing. So if you're a startup and you're just getting going, I think if you commit the day you open your doors to thinking about your sustainability, thinking about the way you're treating people, what are the wages, how is not only a purposeful benefit to society going to happen, but also the ancillary benefits as well. So if you can start that the day your doors open, it's a lot easier than backing into that once you all become unicorns and billionaires, right? But I'll say that, and I really also think I'm excited about the trends that consumers are pushing large companies now to also think about sustainability. And so even if you are large, I'm hoping that those that don't have good practices are going to shift into it because we're demanding it as consumers.
To what extent is technology driving a lot of today's sustainability efforts, and how can technology play an even bigger role as we all get to a point where we're embracing this on a broader scale?
So I think technology is a very good thing for whether you look at the environment, whether you look at the way we live our lives. One is measurement, so data analytics and connecting that with the Internet of Things. We can all see exactly what we're eating, what are we putting into our bodies, what is our car putting out. I just pulled up, we have a Ford Fusion, it's electric Ford, and it tells me how many emissions is going out. I love that, being a data geek. So I do think data is great. The other thing is everybody talks about the cloud, and however you define that, other than the ones above us, thinking about the less need for infrastructure, I think is huge for the environment. So the cloud is a big movement where we are not having to buy physical infrastructure for our businesses. Less paper is another thing. So I actually think technology is helping when you think about our environmental and our sustainable future.
When we look locally here in Sonoma County, what are some companies that come to mind for you, Elizabeth, when you think about companies here in the county that are really sort of hitting this whole sustainability thing out of the park?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure most of you are from here, and it makes me really proud to be from here, because I think a lot of our companies have been thinking this way, frankly, for 25 years, which is awesome. But I think we were leading in new companies. So food waste is something my husband thinks about a lot. So if you're not familiar with Crop Mobster, I'm a huge fan. We as a society waste almost 40% of our food. And so Crop Mobster is a digital platform where actually, whether you're a restaurant, you're a food pantry, or you're like us in our property, we have so much citrus right now that I don't have time to go out and pick it all. You just put up an alert on Crop Mobster, someone comes to get it and disperses it out to specific food pantries. Or if you're a farmer and you have fruit or vegetables that aren't perfect and you can't sell where you normally would, they'll have a 10% discount where anyone can come. They still make money off of that, which is great, and the food doesn't go to waste. So Crop Mobster is really interesting. There's another long-distance carpooling company that's starting to really emerge called Scoop. And unlike an Uber or a Lyft, it actually partners with the end user's destination. So a lot of the major employers, like a Cisco or an HP, would actually hire Scoop to bring its employees back and forth. So it gets cars off the road, lowers emissions, and so on. So lot of great companies popping up, and I think it's really exciting.
And by the way, Kraut Mobster and Scoop are both local to Sonoma County?
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
they're profitable. So I think that whole argument of can you be good for the world and profitable needs to end. I think it's okay to monetize sustainability. You can applaud. Go for it.
Let's talk for a minute about female entrepreneurship. Obviously, that was a subject.
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
I've
that
heard
brought
of
us
it.
together.
Yeah.
And it's a subject that I'm sure is pretty important to a number of the other folks in this room. How can big companies like Dell, but also some of the companies here in this room, how can big companies really get behind with more vim and vigor this notion of putting more female entrepreneurs in the position to succeed and really succeed on a basis that is equivalent to their male counterparts?
So on one hand, it's really exciting because women are starting businesses twice as fast as men. But on the flip side, their fail rate is disproportionately higher. And the few things that we've seen is access to capital, whether it's in the US where they're only getting 5% of venture fund, or you go all the way to a Bangladesh where they can't even get microloans, is big. So what we need to all think about is whether you're giving bank loans, whether you are thinking about investing in companies, can you really prioritize women or minority-led companies? Because that's a big problem. The other thing is partnership. If you can really think about, one, looking at your own staff, looking at your own community, who are you partnering with, who are you electing, and prioritizing female leadership, I think that's really gonna help. I don't think we're in this misogynistic, mean, I don't want women to succeed environment. I think there's just formulas that haven't been working, and we all have to prioritize and support women entrepreneurs. And the coolest part for all of you is that women entrepreneurs tend to put 90% of their income back into their community and their families. So it's not just a good economic bet, it's a good bet for society. So this is something I'm passionate about, and I hope other people will think about it.
Yes. One of the things that we at Entrepreneur Magazine have reported a lot about is that generally it's harder to get money if you're purpose-driven, which, quite frankly, in my personal opinion, is a real shame. But how can entrepreneurs, many of the entrepreneurs in this room, but entrepreneurs in general, how do you work around this? If you've got an idea that you're really passionate about and you need money to make it happen, how do you play in the current environment?
Yeah, it is true. The data does show that the venture community is, even the loan community, when they see any kind of purpose-driven outcome to a company, they shy away a bit. So my advice to you when you're going in there is start with the profitability, end with the purpose part. And I hate to say it that way, but I want you all to succeed and get that funding. So if you really go in and say, this is the way I'm going to monetize my idea, this is the way it's going to make money, then say, and by the way, and come into that back end, that's unfortunately where we're at. A lot of us in the corporate venture community, so we have Dell Ventures, are trying to shift that. Sometimes corporate venture can shift things faster. But I want to tell you a flip to that really quickly. So once you do get that money, what is really exciting is that purpose-driven companies and consumer products that are sustainable are selling now faster than those that aren't. So the irony is I think you're going to make more money in the end because consumers, and particularly millennials and moms, are choosing those products. So that's exciting. So hopefully the venture community will catch up both on women entrepreneurs and purpose-driven companies.
Last question. We're looking at a crowd of folks who not only are obviously committed to sustainability, but are entrepreneurial by the very fact that they're sitting here today talking about some of these issues. If you could give this crew 3 pieces of advice about how to sort of merge sustainability and entrepreneurship in a way that not only makes everybody happy, but also might actually make them some money, what should these folks keep in mind?
Iterate or die. I want that t-shirt, iterate or die. Every startup, even if you have if purpose-driven, is going to have to shift and change because technology is changing so quickly. Act like a hardcore tech company that you're just going to shift and change per what the consumers are demanding. So that's 1. 2 is, a lot of you know my husband James, but his father Tom Gore used to say, do nothing half-ass, do everything full-ass. So if you're in this room, you're already there, but work your butt off. A startup is a startup. It's like having children. It's so much work. It's your love, your passion. And then the third is, don't falter on that purpose, because it will see you through. I saw yesterday this great graph, and a day in a startup, you're like, this is great, this is terrible, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna fail, this is so hard, this is so awesome, in one day. But if you keep that purpose focused, it will get you through. So hold on to it so tight, and you'll make it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you guys.
Thank you
so
guys.
much.
Thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth and Matt.